Okay, so welcome to episode 16 of the Online Network of Independent Learning Professionals. Today, James Finder is going to be talking with us about online marketing. Thank you so much, James, for being here. And just like always, if you guys have questions throughout the conversation, feel free to put them in the chat and we can get to those at the end. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to James, and if you tell us a little bit about yourself and your company, and then we'll get started.
Sure. So, hello. Thank you, everyone who's joined. I really appreciate it. This is my first time ever giving a webinar, so I'm a little nervous, but thank you so much for joining. My name's James Finder. I've been building my LinkedIn network since about 2006, 2007, and as of today, I have over 9,000 connections. I'm the owner of Promethean Learning Experience Design. I'm currently pursuing my master's in instructional technology at the University of Wyoming via distance delivery. And if you guys want to check it out, my portfolio is available at that link. This slide deck will go up to SlideShare after this presentation. So all of the links to everything I talk about is going to be up on SlideShare, and you can find that on my LinkedIn profile. So how did I get 9,000 connections? It really started with something called sourcing. I first started growing my network in 2008, like I said. Right now, I currently have 9,650 connections. The guy who really got me started was a gentleman by the name of Jonah Manning. He taught me the method for sourcing for recruiting, which is, if you guys are familiar, I'm sure you guys have probably been contacted by a recruiter before for an instructional design position. Well, how'd they get your name? Well, they got your name from somebody like me. I was a data analyst and a data sourcer. What I did was broke down a job requirement to brass tacks and really did a competitive analysis of the industry for a recruiting requirement. So finding the keywords in a job requirement, finding the competition, and sending a lot of LinkedIn messages is how I grew my connections to 9,650. So I'm going to say now a lot of the techniques and stuff that I used before have changed a lot since 2015. In 2015, LinkedIn restricted basic search significantly. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about how that's all changed, but I really think you guys should take a look at Chris South's blog post. It explains a lot on how LinkedIn really changed to move to a paywall system. They restricted a lot of access to basic, and I'll leave the link up there for you guys to check out if you guys want to see that. So in response to LinkedIn's action, I purchased a year of LinkedIn Business Premium in late 2015. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. I'll save some of those for questions and answers, whether I thought it was worth it. So how do I do it? So this is just a screenshot of what my LinkedIn profile looks like. I've had about 1,200 views or 1,300 views in the last 90 days. And these are the tools I use to do it. Number one is a methodology called Autopilot for LinkedIn. Another one is called Profit, which is a Google Chrome extension. And then I also use LinkedIn's Reportive for when I connect with people or if I see that they've emailed me directly. And I'll sort of walk through each of these pieces. But just so you guys sort of see, these are the tools that I use. So again, Autopilot for LinkedIn, Profit, which is a Google Chrome extension, and LinkedIn Reportive, which is another Google Chrome extension. Some links to this stuff. Again, this stuff will be in the slide deck. Profit's a free Chrome extension, as well as Reportive is also a free Chrome extension. LinkedIn Autopilot methodology for the Chrome extension and for full functionality, they give you a 14-day trial, but it's about $500 for a full year of functionality. And LinkedIn Premium as well is another about $500. And this all sort of goes into my marketing budget. I've sort of budgeted this out as this is how I'm primarily going to market. So I felt that spending $1,000 for a year of marketing felt about right to me. And I'm definitely open to talking to other people or to you guys about what you guys are spending on marketing and sort of how you guys are doing it. So, all right, so what do I do? What search strings do I use? These are exact search strings for the people that I'm looking at. So why am I looking at these people? There's three reasons. Either one, they're looking for talent. Two, they know someone they're looking for that's looking for talent. Or three, they're in the same boat as me. They're looking for a job, right? So those are really what I'm looking for. I mean, these are direct screenshots from search strings that I use on LinkedIn to either find prospects or find people similar to me. So what do? I run LinkedIn Autopilot. I'll let LinkedIn Autopilot see, guide you guys to the site on really how the ins and outs of it works. This is the search string that I used right here. And then I just clicked on who's viewed me, and then I message them. And then this is the exact wording I use for my messaging. Oops, sorry. The exact wording for the messaging I use right here. I'm a millennial, so I sort of play that up. So you may want to change your marketing tactic to something that, more fits your style. But I really try to focus on millennial development, and developing training and speaking towards companies that are looking to develop training and learning and development for millennial learners. So I really try to, play the part, act the role. I say, thanks for checking me out. Was there someone you needed connecting with, or a project you needed some extra hands on? Let me know how I can help you out. And then I give them my Twitter handle. I don't give them my email address unless they respond to me back, right? So I try to keep it as high touch as possible in terms of, I ask them what they need, but I don't pitch them. I've unfollowed countless numbers of people that immediately when I connect with them, they immediately pitch me with, virtual sourcing or a virtual assistance position or a business venture, and I don't have time for that. So you've looked at me, I've looked at you. There's obviously a mutual connection. Let's figure out what that connection is. That's sort of how I do it. So I really evolved my message a lot. I've gotten a lot more responses for my. Go ahead. Does someone have a question? Okay. Anyway, so developing my message has changed a lot. So I first started this with LinkedIn Autopilot back in late 2015. This was my original message right here. Thanks for connecting. If you need an introduction to any of my connections, please let me know. If you ever need bandwidth for training or instructional design development, please let me know. I'd like to try and help. Cheers, James Finder. And then I really cut it back a lot, eliminated a lot of the jargon. No one knew what bandwidth was. And I realized that was another way that I was confusing my message rather than, hey, if you need help, I can help you out. If you don't, let's touch base on Twitter. I don't want your email address, your phone number. I'm not trying to bother you. I want to see if I can help you out. So that's really how I build my connections. What's worked, what hasn't. What's really worked, my most engaged post was when I connected my Twitter to LinkedIn and being real. I really talk a lot about I follow, and this sort of goes to the third point as well. I've really grown my network to such a size that it's almost become unwieldy, and I'm trying to reduce the size of my network by interacting with leaders, people like Alexander Salas, Melissa Milway, Jeff Kortenbosch, Jackie Van Nice, Matt Guion, Patty, Bryant, so the people who are really contributing a lot to the e-learning heroes community, and I'm sure I'm missing some people, so if I forgot you, I do apologize, but these are the people that I've really been interacting a lot with, would be Alex Salas, Melissa Milway, Jeff Kortenbosch, Jackie Van Nice, and Matt Guion are the people that I'm really talking to a lot, and I've had a lot of engagement when I tag them, because a lot of people see their work, and I've been able to get my name out there. I'm seeing a big uptick in my viewbacks with not only using LinkedIn Autopilot, but also tagging real leaders in the community, in the e-learning community especially, to get engagement. What hasn't worked? I haven't gotten people to read my posts. I post I'm trying to post at least once a month, maybe twice a month. And I'm having a real hard time getting people to read my posts on LinkedIn. So I'm trying a couple of different ways to up my engagement and up my marketing game on this. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually writing my blog posts strictly on my on my website and then doing an executive summary of the blog post on LinkedIn and then linking it back to my original blog post on my website at getplex.com. So that's what I'm trying different. Like I said, the views just haven't been there. You saw the views. I had 20 of my 39 views in the day I posted it, and then significant tailing off the 2 days after. So trying to get my message out of the chaff and really have it stand out. I think I need to make it shorter and more of like an executive summary for LinkedIn. So what's next? Some upcoming decisions that I'm going to have to make. Will I purchase premium and autopilot again? Possibly. It really depends on what my pipeline looks like at the end of my subscription to premium and autopilot. I found the ability to in-mail and search so many profiles per day an amazing way to market myself, yet I don't have quantifiable returns in terms of I've closed X amount of prospects through LinkedIn. I don't have the metrics for that. So I know it's working because I'm able to get my name out there, and the proof's in the metrics. But in terms of making those views and interactions turn into actual money, I'm still learning how to do that. So I'm definitely open to learning about how to do that, how people are doing that better, and stuff like that. So thank you so much for your time, you guys. I really appreciate it. And I would like to open it up to the panel for questions and how I can, how
Awesome.
I can.
Thank you very much, James. This is something that, we're all trying to, I think, figure out and what works best. And, there's so many different ways to market ourselves online. And, so I really thank you for kicking off the conversation about that. And, just providing it's really great to see your experience with things like Autopilot and all of the different things that LinkedIn offers, because, I'm sure it's something a lot of us have thought about. And it's good to know exactly how it kind of worked out for you. So thank you for that.
Sure.
So we had mostly in the conversation in the chat, we just have a whole lot of conversation surrounding this topic. And there are a couple of people that had some thoughts that I kind of wanted to switch over to for a second, and then we'll come back to you as well. Christy had a comment about introductions, and Ant was asking, maybe if she could explain that because he wasn't really understanding. So Christy, can I send that over to you for a second and you talk about the introduction piece?
Sure. Because it's a little hard to explain this in chat. So when you're looking at introductions, Ant had talked about that you mentioned that you've been becoming more open in who you're connecting to. And because there's, as you said, there's no downside to having a large network. And I think, and the point that I brought up is one that's, that I think is totally, I think it's just a very different philosophy, I think, than James, the way that you're using it. And I think we can get different things out of LinkedIn because we're using it differently. But the point about introductions is if you want to connect, so let's say that you're looking for somebody to help you out on LinkedIn, that you're looking for that connection and you want an introduction to somebody who is a second degree connection. And so you're asking for an introduction via one of your first degree connections. If your first degree connection is somebody who knows you, they can give you a better introduction. If it's somebody who doesn't even respond to your messages, even if maybe there would be a way for you to get connected to them as a third degree connection through real people who actually reply to messages, but because LinkedIn only will show you then that shortest path that doesn't actually exist. It's like if you look on the maps on, Google Maps or whatever, and you're, looking at the high level and it's like, oh, it looks like I should be able to cut through here. And you actually get there and no, it's actually a dead end and the road continues on the other side, but there's something blocking it in the way. And that kind of is how those loose connections can be on LinkedIn. For myself, and I realize that my experience on LinkedIn is partly because I get lots of invites from people I don't know. And so my strategy is based on the fact that I am averaging 5 to 7 invites a week from people who I don't know and who take zero time to customize the invite before they send it. So my whole strategy is around the fact that people are constantly asking me to connect. And my response to that is always that I'm sending a message that says, hey, I like to get to know people better before I connect. Tell me about yourself. I would say of the people who send me generic invites, only about 20% of those even bother to reply. And a certain percentage of those reply directly with a sales pitch. And I can just turn those, I can just decline those right off the bat. If you go directly into like at least really spammy sales pitch, I can just eliminate those right off the bat. To some extent, it's different if it's well, I do voiceover for e-learning and I'm trying to connect. That's not so much a sales pitch as this is what I do. There's a line there. But most people who send invites, I have discovered, have zero intention of ever actually talking to anybody. That's my experience. That they want to connect, that they want to be able to have access to the people in my network so they can have better search, but they have no intention of ever replying to a message that I send to them. And no, I actually don't think that there's value in that. And I actually think that having that noise in my network does, in fact, detract from the value of my network. I would rather have 400 good connections than 1,000 crappy ones. So philosophically, that's where it is. And I know that part of that is also, if I was using LinkedIn more like James is using it, where I was doing lots of search and looking for lots of people, if you're doing that a lot, having a bigger network is a benefit because you can do more searching. You have more second-degree connections. If you're not doing premium, having a great big network connects you to more people and you can search for more people. And that is a big benefit. So, but philosophically, I think I'm sort of at the other place. It's working for you, James, so more power to you. I don't think that there is one right path here. I don't think that this is a tool where there's only one way to use it. I think this is a tool where there are different ways. So I want less noise in I am looking for more quality of connections, and I'd rather connect to people who will reply to a message and tell me 2 sentences about themselves.
Great. Thank you very much, Christy. I love all of the different perspectives that we've got going on. This is so fun. Thank you for that. And one of the things you kind of hit on was the noise. And so that is something that unless, that can be troublesome for sure. I mean, it definitely can be an issue. Shannon had a couple of thoughts on this too. So I just wanted to switch over to Shannon and get her perspective as well.
Sure. I'm on, right? Yeah. Look, I've been in LinkedIn for a while. I've gotten business from it, more so a few years ago, as I mentioned in the chat, before I was in the agency model. But I can tell you that I am overwhelmed by my network. I don't feel that there's value in it. And right now, and I'm a person that hires, I don't go there to hire because I don't trust my connections. So I'm curious, and I'm curious, Christy and anybody else.
That's interesting. Sorry.
Yeah, but that's okay. Also, look, I'm 45. I'm not a millennial. I'm different, so it might be me too. But I'm not going there to find work. Where I find people is, well, I'd probably come here to this group before I would go to this huge LinkedIn network where I don't know anybody. So I would go for people that I've worked with in the past. And look, the best advertisement is simply doing an excellent job for repeat business. Christy, I'm curious, have you ever reached out to your network? You mentioned you've sent messages. Have you hired anybody through there or worked with anybody from LinkedIn?
I have not actually hired, but I've at least connected to voiceover people and gotten them to the point of doing demos, but they weren't the one who was picked ultimately. So I've at least gotten that. But I'm not an agency and I don't do a whole lot of hiring. If I was an agency, my behavior on LinkedIn would be very different. And if I was doing targeting for like looking for people in a particular niche to do things, I think my LinkedIn strategy would be different from what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right. So for someone like myself, like Shannon and Christy, you guys are established. Right? You guys are known quantities in the industry, and I think it's very interesting that you say, Shannon, that you don't trust your LinkedIn connections. I really, the reason I grew my network so large is because I have no digital brand, right? I'm in the process of, I am now building my digital brand for my organization, right? And with you like you said, you were getting business from LinkedIn earlier, in your career, now moving towards an agency standpoint. Do you think where's the lack of trust? I guess my question would be, because I relate to Christy. I get 25 LinkedIn requests a week. You know what I mean? For new connections. So I understand where you're coming from, but I also want to understand why, because I mean, that rings really interesting to me, because I do most of my marketing on LinkedIn. And so when someone in your position says they don't trust their LinkedIn connections, what about it is it that you're not?
I don't know them. I'm not going to hire somebody that I haven't. I like to go to people that are a known quantity, a known entity to me. So you're some guy in India who sends me a LinkedIn request, or anywhere, I don't care where it is. I'm just going to pick somebody that that I know better, or who I have gotten recommendation through my network, when I say network, I don't mean my LinkedIn, my real life network.
Yeah, your PLN, your personal learning or personal
PLN.
Yeah, PLN or PEN. Personal engagement network, personal learning network, whatever. I've seen a lot of
my people. I got to learn these acronyms.
Yeah, the millennial acronym inch.
Yeah. Gen X, no acronyms.
Well, I think
that's what I mean. I just don't know them. I'd hire somebody here that I've seen their face. I've talked to them on Slack, and I understand. And I'd of course still go through an interview process and want to see the work. But that's what I mean by don't trust it.
And I guess I kind of want to put this out to the group, and I'm really interested to see what you guys think. LinkedIn sort of markets itself as a connection tool, and I've been seeing in the chat there's pieces like Karen was saying, I'm not seeing it as a place for branding, but rather find who you worked with. And I would actually disagree with that, Karen, and I want to know sort of where you're coming from so I can understand where you're coming from.
I'm sorry, it took me a little bit to get my mic back on.
Oh, you're good.
I'm a consultant. I've worked all over the place in pharma and financial and other small businesses and so on. And I've relocated. Others have relocated. There have been mergers within companies. There have been the universities within corporations have dissolved, and people have been moved around within different areas and so on, or they've left to find other opportunities. And LinkedIn has been a network where I've been able to find some of those individuals that have sort of evaporated, or for whom I have evaporated because of my changes within the business world. So it's not a place where I'm really looking to position myself and gain gain a lot of followers or gain a lot of connections that I don't relate to, but rather to help me maintain some of those connections for people who have also been either started out in the consulting field or have and moved around, or whatever changes we've discovered in that regard.
And I think it's really. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say along those lines, I just finished up a project with a large client in Sweden, and really like the guy I'm working with. It's great. We want to keep in touch. We're not intimate enough to share a Facebook friendship, right? So instead, it's LinkedIn. So that's how I use it mostly, right? So it's people that you don't really want in your inner circle, but professional relationships. I think like Karen's saying that you...
Agreed. Yeah. I feel much the same, Shannon, as you do with LinkedIn. I had, just to give you a sort of a dichotomy versus Facebook, I have less than 10% of the connections I have on LinkedIn that I do on Facebook, right? I think I may have 600 connections on Facebook and I have 9,000 on LinkedIn, you know? So, and the reason I've really done that is one, I really agree with what a lot of people have been saying about noise. And then that takes me, it requires me to really curate the content that I'm getting, right? Immediately, like, and it also means how much time are you willing to spend on building your LinkedIn profile? You know, whether you're I mean, there's so many different avenues for an independent learning professional to market themselves that you sort of have to pick one and then branch out from there. I built my network on LinkedIn, so that's why I started marketing on LinkedIn. Christy, from what it looks like, your blog was like the big piece. So you focused primarily on your blog and moved through LinkedIn. You know, so that's and like people have been saying, I think that LinkedIn can serve a different purpose for different people depending on how they started. For myself, the critical piece is no one knows me Shannon, I completely agree with you. No one knows me from Adam, right? As an instructional designer. I'm just an instructional designer that lives in Denver, and I cost X amount of dollars per hour. That's 75% more than the guy in India. You know what I mean? So how do I differentiate myself? And that's why I spent a ton of time building my LinkedIn profile. If you look at my webpage, it guides you right back to my LinkedIn. Like if you go to my Strikingly, it goes right back into my LinkedIn, right? So I'm guiding people to my LinkedIn.
Is it working? I'm just curious. Are you getting business? Is it working for you?
I mean, I'll put it this way. I have people that want to talk to me. But I think that the problem is with the sales guy, not with the client, if that makes sense. I'm still learning how to close for an e-learning project. And that's something that comes with time. But yes, I mean, LinkedIn has not been my only source. Another big source for me to find, you know, short-term projects has been Articulate's e-learning heroes job board for their remote positions. I mean, that's really what I'm looking for, you know, and that's why, I mean, I know having been in the recruiting space, that's where recruiters look for someone who's looking for contract work. And as someone who's trying to build their portfolio, try to build their business for contract work, I mean, I've made it very clear on my LinkedIn profile that I'm available for contract work. You know what I mean? It's the first line in my profile. You know, available for remote and contract work.
James, it sounds like it might be to your advantage if you go back. I think it was 2 meetings or so. We had Philip Morgan, I think is his name, who spoke to us on directing our marketing and had a great plan and a great process that you might want to look into to help you out as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that was a very good one on positioning your business. That was a great one. Okay, and so I know Danny and Sean are on our panel, and they have a couple of perspectives they want to share. So I'm going to switch it over to Danny.
Sure. So three points. I think the first one would be LinkedIn has changed. Before the recession, 2008, during the recession, 2009, I think there were a lot of jobs posted in the freelancer LinkedIn groups. And that's really what started my business. I made a connection with someone, replied randomly. It was actually one of my first contracts, replied randomly to say, hey, I'm interested in this contract. And I remember looking at my husband, it was right around Christmas. And I'm like, so you think I'll get paid for this? I mean, because I didn't know him. And so I think the way LinkedIn has changed is now LinkedIn has really become sort of this thought leadership location for articles and blogs, and it's a lot more of thought leadership articles and things like that, more of a blog avenue. So LinkedIn's whole platform has sort of evolved, I think, and then we have to evolve as well. So that's my first point. I am more on the side with Shannon. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm over 40, so I'm definitely I want more quality relationships than quantity. And so for me, LinkedIn has not been a huge network for me to grow exponentially. So I sort of take more of a holistic approach to marketing, online marketing, in terms of it's getting people from all different avenues. And so, you might have, your LinkedIn posts and things like that. You might have a blog. We use Facebook, our Facebook group. We use Twitter, and everything connects. So we're posting at once, and it goes sort of to all of our avenues, right? So it's more of this holistic approach, because then I'm meeting people in all different places. I'm presenting at conferences. I'm doing this. I'm doing that, and it all sort of comes together to one thing, which is relationships. My goal is to build strong relationships, because I agree with Shannon. My best customers are repeat business, people that we've been working with since we incorporated. I think the other thing to remember is to really do what works for you. So if LinkedIn works for you, then go for that. If it's blogging that works for you and that's what your passion is, you should do what you love and do what you enjoy. And so, I really think it comes down to what works for you. I think the conversion, and this is where our goal for this year was really to focus on what is getting us new business. So we use Salesforce. That's our sort of client management platform. And then this year we implemented Pardot. Pardot is their email marketing program partner. And that's going to help us see what our conversion rate is. So when somebody fills out a contact us or somebody hits our website, we can then track them every time they hit our website again, and then through email marketing, do a little more conversion work. Because I don't know that I know in my head where I think people came from, but I would agree that you have to use what works. I would also say we get a ton of referrals from eLearning Heroes and people who are out there, and then we get a ton from the ATD site as well. So I think it's having a holistic approach to online marketing, and then how are you going to track it so you know where your marketing dollars are going and what's worth $1,000 a year, or what's worth whatever it may be, and what works for you. I would add one more note, and that is it depends on your team too. So I have some folks on my team who really enjoy blogging, and so I've let them sort of take that role, because I don't have time to do it all the time. And I don't enjoy it as much as they probably enjoy it. And so it's also finding people that you work with that you can sort of tap into their talents that they love to do, and then again, goes back to that holistic approach for me. So
agreed, 110%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your thoughts there, Danny. Yeah, that's really great. And thanks for sharing, like how you're tracking and kind of how you manage that. That's really awesome. Very helpful. Okay. And then Sean had, I think, a question and wanted to share kind of his perspective as well. So I'm going to switch it over to Sean.
Sorry, just unmute myself. Yeah, some really, really good points there, Danny. Actually, you probably covered some things that were on my mind as well, for sure. So thanks a lot for that. But no, seriously, I think one of the challenges around LinkedIn is certainly the quality of the connections, as been mentioned. And coming from a place, James, maybe more similar to you, when you're just starting out, and you don't have those referrals and maybe don't have that network, I think that's where a lot of people kind of can struggle to find it. So in my experience, I found LinkedIn quite good at the very start. And what I did was I probably started with a scattergun approach, and realized that the people that were coming back to me were the people that were in some way related, either to the same city or maybe the same company, or had worked in the companies I'd worked in. So I targeted it very quickly, and I just sent kind of personalized messages. But it was really just for the connection. So it was essentially, hey, you want to meet for a coffee, and we'd go and actually meet in the real world, and then potentially discuss some options. So I did find it quite good from that perspective. But I'm still, on my own, I suppose, relatively new. So in terms of actual work from LinkedIn, I think it's been quite limited on from my side. So I'd be quite interested to see, in terms of your conversions and things like that.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I guess that was the first point, just that the turning those initial connections into something more intimate, I think, is the gist of it.
Yeah, certainly. That's been my experience as well. Most of my connections have been located in the United States and primarily West Coast. So I live in Denver. A lot of the people that I've been working and that have been, like you've related to, are West Coasters. They're either in Denver, San Francisco, LA, San Diego, Portland, Seattle, are really where a lot of the people are coming from. But I also, one of the things that I think, Sean, that you can relate to, and I think a lot of people who are just starting to do an independent career, sort of freelance, I know that sounds like a dirty term, but who do independent contract work, you really need to make the biggest thing I've found, and the biggest thing that I've struggled with is deciding on whether I want to be an independent contractor or I want to work for a remote team. Because I get a lot of people. A lot of people look at my my profile, and they say, "Wow, you have really great experience. Do you wanna come join our team?" It's like, no, not really. I really want to, I want to bill out and do my own thing. Well, we're not really looking for that. We're really looking to bring someone onto the team, et cetera, et cetera. So I think for someone starting out, it's really hard to sort of, stay motivated, stay focused. I've been doing this for 10 months, and it's kind of getting to that point where clients haven't come in the way I've wanted them to. And I really need to, make that decision. Patty and I actually have, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to call you out, Patty, but Patty and I have talked about it privately about, like, I think I've shared a lot in the Slack group, some of the struggles that I've been going through, being an independent contractor and doing my own thing. And, for someone like me as a millennial who I don't have that experience yet. And I think I may be one of the youngest people in the group. I'm 31. Yeah. And exactly what Karen just said. That's exactly where I'm starting to realize that maybe where I'm at. So I think it makes a lot of sense. Sean, for yourself, you're leaving an organization to go do freelance, right? But you've already developed work. You already have developed that, community and connections and pieces. Whereas I'm literally fresh out of school. I've just started 10 months ago. I don't have those connections. So I'm really trying to figure out what I need to do. And I'm definitely open to feedback and sort of advice on that. So
yeah. I guess my thoughts initially back to the kind of intimacy piece was, if we consider the type of work we do, I mean, if most people here are either independent contractors or a relatively small agency, max 10 people maybe, you probably only need a handful of customers to potentially keep you busy for a couple of months. So I guess I would advocate that, spend a lot more time with a lot less people. I mean, there is a saying, you have to have at least 5 conversations with somebody to make a sale. And I think, maybe LinkedIn to have the first one, the first connection, but where do you take the other 4? So, I would maybe focus your top 20 out of 9,000 and spend your week really trying to get inside their heads and what they're thinking of and what they might need, trying to get in front of them that way.
And I think it's also something to remember to sort of add to that is it's not necessarily the person you're meeting with, it's the people that they probably know. So for example, we're members of the Denver Chamber, and I never know if that's a really good use of my time or money. We're a gold member, and I always go back and forth when my bill comes, like, am I going to be a gold member again? Is it worth my money? And I have to remember that sometimes the people that I'm meeting with or having lunch with or meeting at an event, sometimes they're not necessarily the decision makers, but those are the folks that I can build really good relationships with that then know other people. And so I think some of that face-to-face is important. Again, it's that just one more little way to do some marketing a little different that gets me new relationships with people. And I think that can be valuable because it is kind of a lost art in terms of that face-to-face connection and meetups and things like that. And sometimes it's not that person necessarily, but who they know or who they're related to, or, you know, somebody they heard about who needs training and development kind of opportunities.
Yeah, and kind of back to what Shannon had said earlier, I think, talking about the fact that the best advertisement is sometimes just doing a really incredible job. And, for me, that I don't have to do any marketing anymore because, once you get a client, you do an incredible job, they're your client. They contact you when they need something else, and then you add another, and you add another, and you add another. And like Sean said, you only need, a very small amount of people and that can actually keep you busy full time for, months. So that's kind of another, I really like that a lot.
Hey, Patty, just the last quick point I wanted to make was what something Danny touched on as well around how LinkedIn has changed to be more of a kind of the thought leadership space. And I'd just like to pose a question in terms of how people feel about the type of content we see on LinkedIn. Personally, I'd say the vast majority of it, I think thought leadership might be a stretch, that people are more concerned with getting words on paper and getting lists down and distributed, that the thought leadership part is, even that is probably dissipated quite a bit, that it's now, borderline spammy marketing tool. And I think I've lost a lot of faith in it. To the point where I really want to decide, will I click on the link if it's coming from LinkedIn or not? And it's made me question, do I want to be one of those people posting something I knocked up in a Monday morning? Or am I better off writing, 2 quality pieces a year, if even? So yeah, I think for me, that's a big question right now.
Well, I can tell you this: the people that send me spammy stuff, I immediately unfollow them. The people who post those like apple plus orange plus pineapple equals 6, apple equals -12, like immediately those people get unfollowed. I can't stand that. I think it's garbage. Personally, I'm pretty heated about it because I have seen that, Sean. The content that I normally read is from LinkedIn influencers, so that cuts out a lot of that noise. That link, if you see the blue IN next to their name. Now, to become a LinkedIn influencer, you need it's obscene. It's a large number of followers plus, I think, probably a financial contribution to LinkedIn as well. But I know that that's been a big part of. There are people that when they gain that designator, they immediately get uplinked into or upposted in LinkedIn Pulse, the news feed of LinkedIn. So if you become a LinkedIn influencer, your ranking gets much higher for posting posts. But for groups and stuff, I'm a member. Like I said, a lot of the things that we've really been talking about is having access for search, right? I'm a member of the Storyline group. I'm a member of, like freelance independent developers and stuff like that has like 300,000 members. But do I interact on those boards? No, because for the most part, they are, like you said, spammy. Where's the board that I'm interacting with the most? I'm interacting with our group the most, because we have 200 members. We have an active Slack channel, which I think is awesome. And I sort of on a complete tangent, has anyone seen Slack as a new learning platform? There's been an article going around for Slack as a new learning platform, which I think is really cool. I'll post it in our LinkedIn group if you guys haven't seen it yet. It's a really, really cool article about using Slack as a collaborative learning platform rather than an LMS.
Awesome. Yeah, I haven't seen that. Thanks for sharing that, James. I know we're getting close to the top of the hour. Any last thoughts about online marketing or any other questions that anyone has? This has been a really great conversation.
Patty, it's Shannon. I thought I'd share a little story if it might be helpful to people who are just starting out. I worked for a small consulting firm in Princeton, New Jersey for about a year and a half, 2007. And about April of 2008, went to a Lectora conference in Las Vegas. And I took 2 days of training before the actual conference. And I met 3 people in that training class that we ended up sticking together. We went for meals together, et cetera, and then spent the whole week together. Those 3 people launched my business as it is today. Went back home, maintained relationships with them, and each of them, although they were not in a hiring position, recommended me to help on projects that totaled, I think I may have said this before, one was about $72,000, the other was about $30-something thousand. So I walked out of that conference and didn't even realize it, but based on those relationships, had over $100,000 worth of business. By September, which is when Lehman Brothers was closing and the recession was happening, I'm watching employees of Lehman Brothers take cardboard boxes out of their office building. I quit my job and said, I got $100,000 worth of business here. I'm going to just go for it. And so I did, and haven't looked back now. So I finished those 2 projects with them. And sure enough, somebody at that insurance company I worked with referred me to a university that needed help. That was a 6-month project. Somebody on there had me over at Bank of America. That was a 1.5-year project. The person at Bank of America that I worked with, she led me to huge clients in the U.S. that are now 6 years. I'm still still their main person that they go to, and have grown the business since then. So I'm over, I do 7 figures a year in business. It started by going to a Lectora conference and meeting the chick next to me. So that's kind of how it happens. Very little of it happened through LinkedIn. I have gotten projects here and there, but I think that will still work the best in the long run. Don't know if that helps anybody, but I just wanted to share it with you because that's kind of the way it happened for me, kind of organic.
I love that story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes. I'm sorry. Is anyone going to ATD ICE?
Are you talking about the one in Denver?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I am.
Cool. Awesome. So I'm gonna try. I think I'm going to be volunteering there. If not, I'm definitely getting an expo pass. So if you guys are going to be there, I would definitely like to get some coffee or maybe beer, because we're known for beer in Denver.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. Wonderful. Okay. So everyone, I just want to thank James again for putting together this presentation for us. And, it takes time to do that and spending the hour with us. And so just thank you very much, James. It's very much appreciated. And it sparked such incredible conversation. One thing, we've got like just a couple of minutes left. So I just wanted to let everyone know one thing that I'm thinking about that might be cool to do in the group. On a Thursday, when maybe a few weeks from now, when we don't have, maybe just like don't set a presenter one week, and maybe just bring in any like things that you need to brainstorm, or maybe a problem that someone wants to work through or something like that, and then we can kind of like help collaboratively as a group. So that kind of sounds like a fun little way, like a community hour. So if you have any thoughts about that, let me know whether you think that's a good idea or a bad idea. Michael thinks it's a good idea, so that's good. All right, so we'll meet next week, same time, same place. It is going to be daylight savings time this weekend, so just a reminder, I don't know if it's going to be changing where you are, but just so you know, look up, it's going to be mountain time in the daylight savings time next week, so it'll be shifting. Yeah, spring forward, Danny, good. Thanks everybody, have a wonderful week, and it was incredible to see you all as always. We will talk to you soon.